Oftentimes you're going to find yourself wanting to take the text a little bit beyond just what the font gives you. If you've set a text layer and you've done the formatting, but let's say you're working on a logo or a title effect or something like that, and you really want to manipulate the text to get what you're looking for. Well, if you rasterize the text and manipulate the letters, you are dealing with raster pixel-based graphics, so you're going to manipulate and degrade the quality as you apply different effects to it. But by converting the text to paths, it's going to give you the freedom to manipulate that art in any way you want without any loss of quality because it is vector-based. So, let's go ahead and create a title. In fact, I've got a path here that's already started, and we're going to build a title for. It's based on the recent movie, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, that was just recently released. But we're going to kind of take some license and change it up a little bit. I'm actually going to call it The Sorcerer's Understudy. It's kind of a different way of approaching it. So, but what you see I've got here is some of the text. You can see it's built from a regular font, but there are elements where the R has got the swoop coming down here under the S, and then we've got other things happening in here inside the dragon, or the S, to make it look like a dragon. So that was done starting with a font and then converting it to paths and then manipulating it in that way. So let's go and take a look at that process. So I'm going to go back in my layers and let's grab the text tool. I'm just going to go ahead and set a text layer here. Actually go in here. Turn off that path for the moment. So we'll go ahead and set a text layer. And like I said, we're going to call this the understudy. So, and can't really see it in black there, so we'll make the text white. I'm going to go ahead and scale the text up. And the font I'm using in this case is Adobe Garamond Semi-Bold. And I've got some formatting things I got to take care of here. I need to increase the space between the R and the S here a little bit. So I'm just going to adjust that kerning. And remember, it's Option right arrow to increase that spacing. And I think that might look pretty good. We'll go ahead and just increase the spacing on a few of these other letters here. Some of them I want to kind of touch because we're going to fuse those together a little bit in just a moment. But I think that will work pretty good. So now I've got the text set. To convert it to a path, you simply just right-click right on that text layer here in the open area, and when the menu pops up, we're going to go down here and choose Create Work Path. And what it does is it traces your text and creates a very clean path based on the shape of those letters. Now, here is the drawback. It is no longer editable text. It is now vector-based shapes that you can manipulate as if they were regular vector art. But if you make sure you got your spelling correct before you go ahead and convert to these things. But now we've got our paths. We've still got our text layer here. It's still there. It's still editable. So we can do whatever we want with that. But I'm going to go and turn that off for now. I'm not going to throw it away just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take this path here. And let's go ahead and grab our path selection tool. And I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to select the entire path and go to Edit, go to Copy. And the reason I'm doing that is if you look in the Paths panel here, we've got the path that I originally had. And then we've got the working path of this file here. Well, I want it to be all in one path layer. So I'm going to reselect that original layer and simply go under Edit and choose Paste. So now that word understudy is now combined with the lettering, or the rest of the title, rather. So we'll go ahead and press Enter. We've committed that change. So let's zoom in here and get a closer look at some things we need to take care of. Well, obviously what I want to do is, like the R over here, it's got that sweep coming down. I want to do a similar thing to this R here. So we're going in the toolbar, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the direct selection tool. And let's go ahead and select the R here. I'm going to go ahead and delete a few of these extra points here I don't necessarily need. So we'll go in here and use the pen tool. I don't want to delete the path. I just want to delete the actual control handles themselves. So we'll use that pen tool, and if I put my cursor over that control point, it's got the little minus symbol on it, so we'll click that and it gets rid of it. We'll go ahead and get rid of that one there and this one over here. So now we'll take that direct selection tool and go ahead and just drag this element down. So now we're manipulating the shape of the letter. So we'll use these Bezier curve handles to manipulate the curve of that R as it sweeps down under the S here. I'm not going to put as much a curve on it as the other one. Just kind of have it sweeping down like that. It looks pretty good. So that's not bad. So let's do a few other things. I'm going to zoom in here to this Y here because I want to actually manipulate the shape of that. Again, using the direct selection tool, we'll select the bottom area of the Y here and just simply drag it down. You'll notice that the control handles that are selected are solid white, whereas the unselected control handlers are hollowed out here, so we can manipulate the shape overall here. So I'm just going to nudge this up now. And now we're getting a little bit more stylized looking text here beyond, as I mentioned, what the font gives us initially. So if we start with a good font, we know we can take it and manipulate it and change it to whatever we want it to be. I'm actually going to increase the size of this U here. Let's actually scale it vertically a little bit more so. Just like that. Looking pretty good. Now, if you'll notice, a lot of those letters that were overlapping when it was still text, we can really see them overlapping now in the shape. So all I'm going to do is select each of those letters and go up here in the options bar and click on this combine button, and that will go ahead and fuse those, making them one shape. So everywhere I see the text overlapping, I'm going to go ahead and fuse those together, making them one complete shape. So that looks pretty good. So at this point, I'm pretty much ready to go ahead and make this and apply some effects to get the finished look. Now, before I do that, I'm actually going to go and turn on a background element here, just because the effect I'm going to build kind of draws some light from this little cloud I've got in the background here. So with that on, I'm going to go back into my paths, and let's go ahead and select the entire path here, the entire shape of the title. I'm going to go back in the Layers panel and create a new blank layer and go ahead and give it a base color fill of 50% gray. So I just press Shift-Delete to get my fill window here. 50% gray, normal, 100%, click OK. Fills the entire layer. Now, we're going to mask that gray layer with this path with the use of a vector mask, so we can maintain that high grade or that high quality vector edges while we're working on the effect here. So I'm going to go into the Layer menu, and do make sure that the path is selected. Go into the Layer menu, go to Vector Mask, and choose Current Path. So it's going to mask that text based on that overall shape. You can see right here it's created a vector mask on that. So now we're going to add some layer styles to give this an overall finished look. So we're going to go into the Layer Style menu here, and we're going to first add a bevel and emboss. And let's zoom in here so we can actually see what's really happening. So in here, I'm going to change the technique to chisel hard because I want a nice hard edge on that, but I'm going to drop the size down to around 2. And we're also going to go into the lighting section here. I'm going to turn off Use Global Light, and I'm just going to position this tiny little target. Inside this circle, there's a small target, and wherever you position that is your light source. Notice where I position it. We're getting a very different light effect on our text. I'm going to put it up here in the upper right corner, or the upper right area of the circle here, and we get a nice harsh edge on that text. Looks pretty good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is activate the texture just below here. So we'll go ahead and check on the texture setting here, and we're going to go inside there and choose a new texture. And the one I want is this one right here. It's the third one over, and it's a black marble. Now if you don't see this in your window, you do have this in Photoshop. All you have to do is go into this little click on this little arrow on the right here, and this flyout menu, go down here and choose Rock Patterns. It's at the very bottom right here. It's going off screen a little bit, but it says Rock Patterns. You load that, and it will show you this list, and right here we have this black marble right there. And we'll go ahead and apply that, and notice what it's done to our text is given it like a really cool texture to it. Now the cool thing about this is if you apply the texture and you're not necessarily happy with where it sits, you can move your Layer Style panel out of the way. Don't close it or don't click OK yet, and you can go in here and actually manually maneuver the text around, getting the best positioning possible that you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and increase the depth of this texture here. I'm just going to set this to around 125. It gives that texture a little bit more harsh surface there, and that looks pretty good. Now we're going to add an inner glow to this. Remember I was talking about this cloud in the background. It's kind of got like almost like a lighting, you know, kind of mystical cloud back there. We're going to add an inner glow that shows that lighting in there. So I check on inner glow. I'm going to click on the color swatch, and we're going to go in here and just click and sample that green in that background. And perhaps make it a little bit lighter. Let's just push that up there. Bump up the opacity, and you can see the edge of the text is showing that glow. If I turn it on and off, you can see. Here, let's zoom in here. So if I turn that on and off, you can see it's picking up that lighting, almost giving it more of a convincing that it's actually in that background area. And the last thing I'm going to go ahead and add is a drop shadow. So let's go do a standard drop shadow. Gives me a little bit of separation on there, and it looks pretty good. So we've got several different layer styles going on here, giving us a nice texture feel, very harsh surface on our text to give it that, to kind of go along with the theme of the movie or whatever the title is going to be. So we're going to click OK on that. Now there's one more thing we need to do. If you remember, you may not have seen it, it's kind of small. On the original path over here, we've got the eye for the dragon right there. It's a small oval shape. I'm going to go ahead and make that a separate element. So let's go ahead and create a new layer here. I'm just going to go ahead and load that path as a selection. Instead of making it a vector mask, it's just a very tiny oval, so it's no big deal. And let's just give that a red color fill. I'm going to select this red swatch here in the swatches panel. Go ahead and press Option Delete, fills it in. Going to put a little bit of a layer style on this shape. If I go in here and add a bevel and emboss, and I'm going to go in the Style menu here under Structure and change it to Pillow Emboss. And what that does is it gives me kind of an etched-in look, like it's really kind of, into the surface of that stone there. I'm going to go ahead and manipulate the lighting here. Again, turn off Use Global Light, otherwise it will affect all the other lighting scenarios in this image. So notice when I reposition this, the lighting changes on the graphic. Maybe bump up the depth a little bit. And there we have it. So the real point here is being able to manipulate the text beyond what the font gives you. You set a font, you find a font that's close to what you're looking for, and then convert it to paths, and then you can go in here and do all this very cool stuff of adding layer styles, and remember to keep it as a shape, because you can go ahead and take a path and make it a selection and then fill that selection if you want. Then it's pixel based. So if you did any more manipulation to the text, it would be a pixel-based graphic. So by making it a vector mask based on that shape you create, you keep that vector editability while you're able to apply all these layer styles and different cool effects so you can experiment as you're working without having to go back and restart all over again.